Alright everyone, we've got some big Dark Ages news. As you all probably know, the big man himself, Hugo has started his developer livestreams once again.
God damn it!
Joshua is also still there, and this time around Hugo's playing through the campaign of Dark Ages, just like he did with Doom Eternal, and because of this it's left us with a heap of new information regarding DLC, master levels, new campaign game modes, and even more such as balancing changes. And as it usually goes with Doom news, us parasitic YouTubers will come along and hoover up all of this new information. And luckily for you, I have gathered all of the information that we currently have about the future of the Dark Ages, and I'm going to sum all of this up for you in one place, to ensure that you're not out of the loop. So let's get started then. First, I want to go over some news that's going to make a certain group of you very, very happy. And that's the news that we're probably going to see the return of master levels. No, not the Doom 2 master levels. The Doom Eternal master levels, or something of the sorts.
Oh, that was. I love that back. No, the Revenant!
Due to many people's complaints about Dark Ages being too easy in comparison to previous titles, the topic of the game's challenge did get brought up, which eventually led to them discussing the potential for master levels. Whether or not they'll still be in the same style as Eternal's ones is kind of up for debate, and I am curious as to how they're going to make these levels more challenging. Will it just be through moving enemies about and adding bigger ones in, or will it be through a mix of that and also environmental changes like we saw with the Doom Eternal ones? In my honest opinion, I think they'll probably steer more into the Doom Eternal direction considering how much the community loved those maps. But really, there's not a whole lot I can tell you about master levels because I know just as much as you do. However, we have heard that there is potential for these to release before campaign DLC, which says to me that we might get a more consistent flow of updates for the game, unlike with Doom Eternal, which was limited by you know what. So what about DLC? What's going on with that? Well, we might have just got some information that reveals quite a lot about Doom the Dark Ages DLC. When Hugo was asked if we'd be hunting down the High Council of Hell, he replied with a really curious response.
Because he looks.
So when are we hunting down Hell's High Council? Yep, there is a lot of them out there.
That's true.
Of course, after the conclusion of Doom the Dark Ages campaign, we'll need some sort of antagonist for a DLC. You know, considering what the Slayer did to the previous one. But yeah, I honestly think the potential for some sort of Hell Royalty to be the villains in the Dark Ages DLC is pretty high. Even at the end of the game, you can hear the Slayer's suit informing him that the targets had been identified.
Targets identified.
And of course, I can't tell you for definite if these targets that have been identified are who we think they are, because, you know, that would literally just be a lie. But I can theorize with you and say that I think that this is going to happen. It's often hinted at, or just outright said point blank, that the Slayer killed a lot of Hell's nobility, and for the most part the codex entries that this is based around are kinda set in the time period from the Dark Ages to 2016. So I think it's safe to say that at least one member of Hell's royalty that's not already been brutally murdered by the Slayer is going to show up. However, while that is all speculation, there is something that I can tell you for definite about the DLC, and that is that the Doom the Dark Ages DLC is not going to be as hard as Tag 1 or the Ancient Gods. For some of you this might be disappointing to hear, but I honestly am all for this decision, as this topic is one of the reasons why master levels were brought up earlier in the stream. We have to remember that it's not just hardcore players like me and you who play these games, there's a lot of casual people who want to play these campaigns and get the story out of them, even when the story is not that good. I'm sorry Hugo, I'm sorry. But this really does make sense to me. I mean, the reason the Ancient Gods has such mixed reviews is that it was really hard, a lot of people couldn't beat it properly, so I think this is a really good compromise. So as this section's title card might suggest, we are talking about a brand new game mode. Now this is not fully confirmed for a future update, but it's pretty likely. On the most recent developer livestream, Hugo suggested the idea of a really strict shield mode, one that would make it so that if the player didn't parry the Hell Surge attacks at the right time, their shield would instantly break and they'd have to wait for it to return. Along with that, the parry timing would be extremely specific and would leave very little room for error. To me, this sounds like a really interesting idea and I'd love to see it implemented. But what do you think of this? Leave me a comment and tell me, because right now we don't have a whole lot of information on this and we also need to move on to the next section. Now that we've got the big stuff out of the way like DLC, let's talk about the smaller things in the game that will affect everybody regardless of DLC ownership or the decision to play harder levels, which is balancing changes. Due to Doom Eternal kind of making the community, you know, a little bit violent towards any sort of balancing changes, I might have put you off immediately by saying that, but I want you to just trust me on this one, you know, I think this is a really good decision. Due to the tunable system for Doom the Die Cages, it's now possible for them to make balancing changes without the requirement of any external updates, which is both incredibly convenient for us and the developers. Earlier in the video, I mentioned how a lot of you weren't happy with how easy the game was. Well, now that's been fixed a little bit. They made the game harder across all difficulties except Aspiring Slayer, or I'm Too Young to Die as it should have been called. They even announced that they're going to be working on a toggle switch for the slow motion effect that comes when you glory kill or do your melees and such. And with that comes even more quality of life features, such as improving the amount of ammo for the plasma weapons, buffing and nerfing certain enemies such as the Pinky Rider, and also mentioning that they're working on a fix for the game's slow weapon swap. Of course, they're not exactly giving people the ability to quick swap, but I think it's once again going to be a nice compromise. Doom the Die Cages has an incredibly bright future in my opinion, and if all goes well and according to plan, we'll see many updates with many new levels, balancing changes and quality of life features, along with at least one campaign expansion, and hopefully two if we're going by the usual id Software standard. If you'd like to know my full thoughts on Doom the Die Cages, you know, the parts I loved, the parts I just liked, and the parts I absolutely hated, then you can click on my review appearing on screen now. Along with that, if you'd like to get Doom the Die Cages for yourself at a discounted price, then I recommend shopping through GAMESPLANET.com using the link in the description or the pinned comment, as this will help support the channel and fund future videos. But apart from that, support wise, all you can do is give the video a like. And of course, have a nice day.